You're listening to The Jake Asman Show on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Bruins with a shot to tie it or win it with 12 seconds. Zhang again with the ball in his hands in the paint. Floater, short, got it back, ties it with three. Gonzaga has time to do something. Suggs for the win. Oh, yes. Unbelievable. Perfect season remains on go. Are you? Oh, my God. There is. There are onions, Jim, and then there are major onions with a kiss. Oh, my goodness. One of the great games. We're going to have to check in Final Four history. A classic game with a classic finish.
CBS with the call. Jalen Suggs at the buzzer sends Gonzaga to the national title game over UCLA. Gonzaga will take on Baylor tonight for all the marbles. And sometimes you just have to enjoy a great sports moment. That was one of the greatest games you will ever see. In college sports, in professional sports, it doesn't matter. That was one of the most historic March Madness games of all time that we witnessed. And Jalen Suggs hitting that shot, saving the perfect season for Gonzaga, will go down in NCAA tournament lore. And if Gonzaga can cap off a perfect season tonight, becoming the first team to go undefeated since 1976, that shot will be immortal. I mean, it's already at an all-time level now. But if that shot is the reason why they eventually cap off an undefeated season, man, we're going to be talking about that shot for as long as the NCAA tournament is played. And we'll get to the game tonight. Baylor certainly has a great chance to upset Gonzaga. They're only a 4.5-point dog, so it's not like they're a 14.5-point underdog like UCLA was in that national semifinal game on Saturday. But man, was that an incredible game. The back and forth nature. I mean, I was watching the game by myself in my apartment, and I kept saying out loud, can UCLA keep this up? There's no way UCLA can keep this up. But then you kept going and going and going. You're like, actually, Jake, yeah, UCLA can keep this up. They couldn't miss. I mean, the shot making by both teams down the stretch was incredible. I look at it like this. If UCLA played maybe any other team in the country, they win that game. They just happen to run into an all-time team in Gonzaga. And anyone that questions how good this Gonzaga team is, shame on you. They're every bit as good as their 31-0 record. Every bit as good. They're battle-tested now. They finally had that scare, and they overcame it. So I could see this game tonight going a couple ways. They could just roll because the pressure's off. Or maybe Baylor looks at it like, hey, if UCLA took them to the wire, we could beat them. We'll see how it unfolds. But that game on Saturday, man, UCLA never went away. It was a game you could not look away from. You know, sometimes you're watching sports and maybe you're on Twitter, you're texting someone, you're not fully ingrained into the game. Not that game. I mean, sometimes you just tip your cap and go, that's why we love sports. That game was everything Saturday night. And after how bad the Baylor and Houston game was, to see UCLA almost win was incredible. And I look like an idiot. I said on my Saturday show, I think Houston has a better chance of winning outright than UCLA does covering. Shows you how much I know. I mean, man, the only thing that keeps that game on Saturday from being maybe the best college basketball game of all time is that it was in the national semifinal. It wasn't the championship. So I think you still got to put Villanova and UNC ahead of that game. You probably, I wasn't around to see it, but, you know, North Carolina State upsetting UH with, the magical run that North Carolina State was on with Jim Valvano. But there are very few games that will be as good as what that was on Saturday. Combine the fact you had, an historic program in UCLA playing the role of Cinderella. You had this Gonzaga team that's been knocking on the door for years, and finally they have their best team. I mean, how good is Johnny Juzang for UCLA? How good is Drew Timme and Jalen Suggs? I mean, that game was just amazing. Back and forth. It was like a heavyweight boxing fight where both guys were just slugging it out. Frazier and Ali. One of the great games you'll ever see. And that shot by Suggs, once again, One of the all-time great shots. I mean, Jalen Suggs is now going to be on a list of guys like Carmelo Anthony, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, as future NBA stars that had incredible moments in the NCAA tournament. Jalen Suggs is that good. You know, if Kate Cunningham's the first pick in the draft, Jalen Suggs is going number 2. I mean, forget the shot he hit at the end of the game. How about the sequence where he blocked the player on UCLA and then had just a dime of like a Jason Kidd in his prime pass to a cutting Gonzaga player to lay it in for a dunk? I mean, that play was incredible. And he follows it up at the end with that shot. Simply put, that's one of the great games you'll ever see. And that shot by Suggs will go down as one of the all-time moments in the history of the tournament. This was Jalen Suggs after the game on Saturday talking about hitting the shot that put Gonzaga in the national championship game.
I mean, I just put it up. I was fading away with it, and, dude, it went off the backboard and in. And I don't know. I've always wanted to run up on the table and, you know, like Kobe and D-Wade and go like that. And, I mean, that's the first thing I did. But, man, that's something that you practice, you know, on your mini hoop as a kid or in the gym just messing around. And to be able to do that, it's crazy.
And then Dwayne Wade quote tweeted him and goes, "I was doing the same thing. I jumped on my kitchen table after you hit that shot, bro." How cool must that be for Jalen Suggs? Just an incredible game. Sometimes you just tip your cap and go, that's why we love sports. That's why we put up with all the nonsense that sometimes sports brings us. Unbelievable. Especially after how bad the first game was. Man, I thought Houston had a chance. They never really had a shot. Baylor was just too good, too dominant. Jared Butler was great. I mean, the Bears had 5 players in double digits. And Baylor can win this game tonight as we transition now to talk about the national title game. I'm going to pick Gonzaga because I've been with them all tournament. And I think if you're going to win in the NCAA tournament, you need to have that one game where you survive. Survive and advance, right? That's the saying that Jim Belvano coined all those years ago. Survive and advance. And I truly believe Gonzaga survived what will end up being their toughest test. I don't think they're going to roll tonight, but I think they're the better team. I think if Baylor wins, they need to play their A game, and Gonzaga can't be at their best. If both teams play to their A game, I think Gonzaga wins by double digits. I just think Gonzaga is that much better. But Baylor certainly has a shot. What could be the great equalizer in this game later is the fact that Baylor's the best three-point shooting team percentage-wise in the country. So if they hit their shots early, maybe the nerves start to tighten for Gonzaga just a bit. We've seen this before, right? The last undefeated team in the championship game, the 2007 Patriots. They ran into a Giants team that had no business being in the Super Bowl. They were 10-6 in the regular season. They were a wild card team. And then all the pressure was on New England. And the longer the Giants stayed in the game, the more confidence they had that they could actually win. And this Baylor team is much better than that Giants team was in the Super Bowl, to use the cross-sport comparison. Spread's not 14.5 tonight. The spread's 4.5. So Baylor certainly has a chance. They got to shoot the lights out of the ball, though, from the outside. I think that's the biggest key. It's cliche, but sometimes whichever team hits more threes is the team that wins. I think that's the case tonight. You know, but people talk about how, you know, Gonzaga's got to dictate the pace of the game to Baylor, or Baylor's got to dictate the pace of the game to Gonzaga. It's tough to do when you're talking about a team like Gonzaga. I mean, we're talking about, what, 4 guys that are going to play in the NBA tonight across these teams? I mean, Kispert is probably a lottery pick. We haven't even talked about him yet from Gonzaga. We know Suggs is, if not the best player in the country, he's number 2. He's right there. Got a lot of star power in this game, so it's setting up to have a chance to be one of the best championship matchups we've seen in a while. I mean, these two schools tonight spent 15 of 17 weeks in the regular season ranked number 1 and number 2 in the polls. So Baylor is going to have to hit a lot of threes, and Baylor's going to need to stay in the game early. I think the way these teams start will tell us a lot about how this game's going to go. But I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. Probably won't be anything close to what we got on Saturday, Ron, but man, this game tonight should be a lot of fun, and we'll certainly have a lot to talk about tomorrow, I'd imagine.
No, because here's part of the deal with Saturday's game. We weren't expecting it. We would expect Baylor to be able to hang with Gonzaga all the way through for it to be a back and forth game. And it could be very well be an instant classic if they play the way UCLA and Gonzaga played against each other. But what made UCLA Gonzaga stand out more was that was the blowout we predicted. There was no way UCLA, Gonzaga's been winning 15 plus all the way through. Why would we think UCLA, an 11 seed, had any hope of playing against Gonzaga?
It's amazing, right? I could not have been more wrong about UCLA. I thought a nice story of the run-ins here. They're 14.5-point underdogs.
Yeah.
And wow.
I thought we were getting set up in a situation where Miley Cyrus was going to be the best thing about the Final Four weekend.
Right.
Because, we all thought Baylor and Houston was going to be fantastic. I didn't even watch it. And I turned it off. I was like, this is terrible.
I'll say it again. If UCLA played any other team with how well they played on Saturday, they win. They just ran into the one team that was able to go toe-to-toe and withstand the pressure, withstand the challenge of finally being tested in a big spot, season on the line, and they
and that was the thing about UCLA. When the overtime started, when Gonzaga jumped out to that 5-point lead very quickly, or maybe even got to 7, I was like, all right, well, here's what's going to be terrible is that the final score is going to show that Gonzaga won by 10, in overtime, and that doesn't show what this game was about at all. But again, UCLA, even though down by 5 or down by 7 in overtime, found their way, fought back, and tied it up. And I was surprised. I thought for sure Gonzaga was going to take a 3 there. I'm glad they didn't. Just the run of the game where you had the layup and then Gonzaga just quickly dribbling down the court is what you want. I didn't want a timeout to ruin it there.
Just an incredible moment. And it just shows you the type of player that Suggs is, man. Like, game on the line, no hesitation.
Yeah.
And just the way Gonzaga executed that play for a team that has not played any games like that basically all year, where they needed to draw up a play to hit the final shot. How calm and just confident they were. Hey, outlet pass, get the ball to Suggs, dribble, get as close as possible.
Yeah, maybe that was UCLA's first mistake because Suggs caught it cleanly. Maybe they just thought, like, hey, it's tied 3 seconds. They're just going to throw up a prayer. It's not going to happen. I don't know. But it was, we were shouting, we were screaming, and we had no skin in the game.
We were yelling. Jeff writes in on YouTube, Davion Mitchell will lock Jalen Suggs down. Let's go Bears. Baylor's got multiple guards that play great defense. So
First shot fired.
So Jeff all in on the Baylor Bears. Hey, you could get them at 4.5. It would not shock me if Baylor wins. I'm going with Gonzaga because they were my pick all along. I'm not going to change now. It would not shock me if Baylor wins. But I'm going to stick with my pick from the beginning of the tournament. I'm going with Gonzaga. I just feel like it's their time. Sometimes you get to a situation where it just feels like it's time for that team or that school, in the case of college, to break through. We see this in sports a lot. Sometimes it's just your year. I think the fact that Gonzaga survived the manner in which they did on Saturday, it's their time to cap off this run and get Mark Few his first national title. 800-224-2004 is the phone number if you want to weigh in on the calls. You also could tweet me. I'm on Twitter at Jake Asman. That's Jake ASMAN. Coming up next, let's talk some Jets. The Jets are in the news once again. Josh McCown told ESPN that Sam Darnold would welcome the challenge of a rookie pushing him in a quarterback battle. I'll tell you why that would be a horrible idea if the New York Jets did such a thing. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned. Jake Asman with you. We're coming right back here on a Monday morning on Sports Map Radio.